Hey, welcome. If you're new to the channel, my name is Elliott and you're watching Rickety Ski Reviews. Today we're talking about the new 2026 Atomic Maverick 88CTI. Now, I ski these in a 179 and I bought these with my own money. Now, Atomic said they were gonna send me some skis. They said they were gonna send me some Redsters back in February. I've sent them about 4 emails since with no replies, so I think it's safe to assume that they're probably not sending anything, at least for this season. Who knows? But because Atomic didn't provide these for me, I bought these with my own money, and I was able to do that because of all of the people who use the affiliate links over this winter. I really appreciate it, and I was able to use that money to buy these myself. Now, you can buy them currently on evo.com for $699.95. I know there's a ton of you that want to know about it, so if you want to continue to support an independent reviewer like me, please use the affiliate links down below in the description. I'll also have it in the top comment. That is what allows me to be independent and review a ski even when Atomic doesn't want me to. Now, I ski these in a 179 centimeter length, which means they have a turning radius of 16.5 meters, which is down considerably from the previous version, which you see right there, the Atomic Maverick 88Ti, which in a 176 has like an 18 meter turn radius. So a big change there. And the individual ski weight is 1,770 grams. So very light. I don't remember exactly offhand. I want to say the old Mavericks were like 18 something, but they feel considerably lighter even in this slightly longer length. There's a handful of changes from the previous generation to this generation. One being the Horizon Tech is a little bit longer. It starts earlier. You can also see the splay of the tip starts quite a lot earlier, giving them a little bit easier float in the off-trail sections. Obviously, with the name, these are using carbon and Titanal. They don't explain exactly online how they do it. Previously from Atomic, the way that they did the Atomic Vantages is they would have carbon on the tips and Titanal more towards the tails, whereas these seem to be using a blend the whole way through. It feels a little bit more consistent than my old Vantages. And like I said in the specs, a pretty substantial change to the turn radius. But now that we covered specs and we covered price, let's talk about the important part. What do I think of the ski? How did it actually feel on snow? And I have a lot to say as someone who was a big advocate for the previous generation Atomic Maverick 88Ti. Now, the first question obviously is, did they make the ski better? And the answer is no. This is not a better ski than the previous version. It's different. We'll get into it. Let's talk logistics. But that's how you know I'm an independent reviewer and I'm not relying on Atomic to send me stuff, because I do not think this is an improvement from the previous generation. It's improved in certain ways, but the overall performance I find a slight downgrade compared to the previous version. But again, some of that will depend on what your priorities are, so let's dive right into it. Now, because I didn't get these in advance from Atomic, I had to wait kind of for when the general public can buy it. I was not able to get my hands on these until the very last day of the season, but the conditions were actually really good, and I honestly think our mountain is primarily been closed just for financial reasons, just for there's not enough people going up there. We have actually had really strong conditions, and the snow was suitable enough for me to give you an honest review of these. I am planning on putting more mileage on them in the winter, but this will be my honest review, and I think that the conditions were perfectly suitable to give you my honest opinion on these skis. My first opinion, the flex is very different from last gen. It's much more progressive. The tips feel way wider and surfier, but like it's a lot easier to kind of initiate the tip and get this going, and it's a much more forgiving ski than previous generations Mavericks. And I think that while the overall performance is slightly less than the previous generations, I think that this kind of weirdly will be an easier ski to recommend to skiers of a wider range of abilities. It's a lot more forgiving when it comes to turn initiation, and I think that's one thing that really kept the Atomic Maverick out of the hands of a lot of skiers, whereas they could go with the Salomon Stance or something else. These are a lot more forgiving and a lot easier to recommend for people who are not just totally on it with their carving timing. But in order to get there, they had to make a few sacrifices. But that was my first impression. The first noticeable thing is just how much easier it is to initiate the tips on these skis. The other thing I noticed, this is the first Atomic Maverick where I've ever had to change the mounting point. These felt worse at factory recommended. I found that I did have to mount these one click back. Now, because I had limited time on these skis, I wasn't able to like fully test the mounting point, so maybe that's some content that will come out next winter. But I had just enough time to know, hey, these don't feel right. I'm gonna do one click back, kind of like the bent. I've spent so much time this last season with the Atomic Bent series that I kind of know, hey, I know what this feels like, I recognize it, it's time to go one click back. So for the first time ever, I would recommend changing the mounting point. And all the time I've skied on Atomic Vantages, the first gen Atomic Mavericks, I've never once had an issue with mounting point, but these are the first ones where I feel like this tip splay is so aggressive, and the point that you finally get snow contact, I would recommend, if you're similar built to me or whatever, play with the mounting point. This is the first Atomic Maverick Vantage, whatever you want to call it, that I have not liked the default mounting point on. Some of that is taste, some of that is whatever, but I was very surprised that I actually felt like I needed to change it. Really quick too, before I jump into the pros and cons, let me show you the side by side. Okay, if you can kind of see that. These are as close to the same length as you can get. The new ones are 179, the old ones are 176. You can see, maybe it's hard to pick up on the camera, the newer versions start splaying out quite a bit earlier, and it's more gradual. The tails are pretty much identical. The flex pattern on the old one is pretty stiff and snappy, whereas the new one is quite a bit more gradual and quite a bit softer. You can also see the Horizon Tech implemented on these. I don't know if the camera will pick it up. I'll try my best here. You can see it's a little more pointed with Horizon Tech, whereas this one is a lot more gradual and kind of just splayed gently off the sides. Also, just from eyeballing it, it looks like these tips on the new ones are quite a bit wider. But the shape on these, like overall, is just a little bit rounder on the new version. Sorry, I know it's a little rough showing you guys on camera, but I don't feel like it's very well showcased the differences, so I wanted to kind of show you guys up close, side by side, what the skis actually look like if you're interested in getting these. As much as I was kind of, being harsh in the beginning, I don't think that these are a ski that like are hard to recommend. These are still a great ski, so, I'm gonna be honest about that. I'm a little frustrated with some of the changes, but there is a lot to like here. So let's talk about the good, and then we'll talk about some of the drawbacks that come with the changes they made. All right, the first positive, it manages soft, wet snow a lot better than previous generations. I feel like in previous generations, it was really easy for the middle of the ski to kind of sink in, or for the tips to grab in a way I didn't like, or just the way that it kind of carried momentum through the slush. It could really get hung up where suddenly the Horizon Tech was getting grabbed. I feel like this is much more gradual, and it manages soft, wet snow much better than previous generations. It also feels like it has a lot more bent DNA kind of spliced in it, which creates a very positive first impression, where the bent allows you to kind of sit back a little bit and go through a wider variety of snow, or the turn initiation is like very welcoming, whereas the Maverick previous generation can be a little less forgiving with your timing. This one's much, much more forgiving, and the sweet spot of when you can kind of get the ski initiated is longer. Like the window is bigger than previous gen. The flex pattern is a little bit easier to work into. It's not a substantial change, but definitely the turn initiation is a little bit more gradual. You can really kind of start massaging in your pressure, and it doesn't force you to really be on the front of your boot as much, which I think a lot of people will find more appealing. I kind of mentioned this before, but it's not as demanding with turn timing when you pressure, when you get off of the ski, when you load and unload. Across a lot of different metrics, this just feels like a much more approachable ski for a much wider variety of skiers. But now that we talked about the good, let's talk about the drawbacks, and this ski definitely has drawbacks. Now, I was being kind of dramatic in the beginning. Like I said, the overall score of these isn't as high as the previous generation, but it's pretty close. So a lot of my critique of this ski is still kind of nitpicky. There's a couple big things, we'll talk about those. Like, I'm gonna say a few cons, and some of them are gonna be very, very nitpicky, but some of them I feel like are pretty fundamental. So let's kind of go in order. The first big fundamental change I don't like, there's a lot more chatter than I expected. It's not all the time, but especially when you kind of get this ski loaded at the apex, the amount of energy you can load into the ski, its total energy threshold is less than previous generations. Also, when you get it on edge, it is not as stable as the previous generations. When you are arching the ski through a turn and you get it kind of at the apex, you feel way more chatter than you do on the previous generation. I was very surprised by that and a little disappointed. And honestly, that is my biggest problem with these skis. And I skied them on a warm spring day. But man, when I got them loaded up, I was like, oh, I am feeling a lot of chatter, a lot of feedback. And this ski is not holding as true through the apex of the turn. Now, you can kind of time that out right. And for a lot of people, right, you don't load the ski as much. It's not a big issue for some people. But for people like me, I was like, oh, I like that about the previous gen Maverick. I like that when I kind of stand on the ski and load it, it carves through and doesn't kind of buck me around. This just does not have the same capacity the previous Atomic Maverick 88 Ti had. It's got a lot of other good things, like I mentioned before, and it's not a huge difference. It's probably like a 20 to 25 or 30% difference, but it can just not handle energy or power as much as previous generations, and that was the thing that I found the most disappointing with these new skis. I mean, you guys want the honesty, right? Is this gonna help me establish, good relationships with Atomic? No, but I don't care. You guys were nice enough to use my affiliate links, and I'm gonna be nice enough to be completely 100% honest. I mean, I'd be honest with you guys either way. That's probably what gets me in so much trouble, but I appreciate you guys helping me, and I'm gonna go out of my way to tell you guys the 100% honest truth. I would do that anyway, but I just wanna say thank you for allowing me to test the ski. I really appreciate you guys giving me the facilities and being able to use that money and put it back into my videos and test something new, because I think that this ski has some real downsides with the changes. And anyway, that's kind of a tangent, but I wanted to say thank you. What did I say? Oh yeah, more chatter than I expected. I'm suspicious that it might be some of that from the earlier tip rise. I will say I like this ski a pretty healthy margin better one click back than I do at the factory recommended. It was below a 9 at the factory recommended, and it's above a 9 when you do one click back. So I think some of that probably has to do with the early rise. It's also the first time they've done it with this iteration, so who knows. But honestly, those are my two big downsides. Now that we talked about that, let's talk about the score. Now, this is the first ski, like I said, with Maverick, where I've had to try different mount points. So, at the factory recommended, I would say that this is an 8.9 out of 10. This is a pretty expensive ski, and it's a little bit just not giving you enough ski to kind of run on. But like I said, when you get this ski one click back, the score improves, and honestly, it really does. It gives you more kind of runway with the ski, it chatters less, you get enough of the ski that you can kind of massage and hold. It just tracks better all around. I really enjoyed these quite a bit more at one click back. So at one click back, these get a 9.2 out of 10. This is still a great ski, and it's hard to fault Atomic for wanting to make this more approachable. I feel like the big drawback I heard from other reviewers is that the Atomic Maverick of previous generations wasn't always super approachable, but I wish they would just figure out a way to make this ski a little bit stiffer. Let it hold a little bit better, especially for the East Coast skiers out there, or for the people who know how to load up the ski and have their timing down. It feels like being punished for being good at skiing, or for appreciating carving, or at least just having my timing down. There are better skiers than me. I'm not trying to inflate my ego, but it felt like being punished for my skill level. Because if I was more intermediate, I would honestly enjoy this, and it's an easier ski for a ski shop to recommend. And at the end of the day, Atomic is in the business of making money, but it just makes me feel a little bit sad that some of the performance pieces are slightly lower than previous generations. So what does that mean? I think for people who are intermediate or need a more forgiving ski with the timing, I can finally recommend the Atomic Maverick to you. If you're somebody who really feels like you have your carving dialed in and you like the performance of previous gen Mavericks, they're still available. You can still go out and buy them. I'll put links down below for the previous generation. I'm sure that we will start to see more Atomic Mavericks, which is great because I like the platform, but it just, and it feels, honestly, there are sometimes when I'm skiing where I'm like, oh, I can feel my ski is inside here somewhere. It's just kind of surrounded by a little bit of fluff and a little bit of a softer ski around it to get you started. And honestly, maybe with mileage you could adapt to it, but I'm just a little bit sad to see some of the stiffness and power and stability you got at the apex of your turn has diminished just slightly. They had a great ski in an attempt to make it more accessible, watered down a couple of elements of it. What else did I say? Yeah, I said I find the carbon is easy to initiate but feels less reliable at high force turns. Not bad, just less consistent. That's true. Like I could get some really good turns in, but it didn't deliver every single time like the previous gen did. It's not quite as good, but I get why they did it because it's way easier to start the turn. It's a very big improvement for spring skiing, funny enough, but it takes away some power and stability to get there in the hard carving turns. Weirdly enough, I think that people will get more value out of this too because it's probably a little bit easier to recommend for the off-trail skiing. It's probably got a little bit more diversity in it. When you load it, you can get that good Maverick turn out of it. It's not like it's not there. It's just taking away a little bit of power in order to give you more diversity and more accessibility for turn initiation, which I didn't need, but for some people, it may make a big difference. So I get why they did it. So for me, overall, this is somewhere between 9.1 and a 9.2. I think overall I still had a lot of fun on it, so I'm gonna lean into the 9.2. This is a great ski. I like that the price isn't too crazy. Who knows what it'll look like with some of the tariff rumors going around, but $6.99 is kind of a lot for the ski. But I don't know, it's still a good value. Oh, the other thing I noticed that I like too is the carbon is a little bit springier, so if you get yourself into a flat section, you kind of spring in and out of every turn. There's a couple of nice little features and quality of life pieces tacked on here, but I think that they kind of missed the forest from the trees from what people liked out of the Maverick, which was really storming through. People will probably like this too, more in the powder with the horizon tech being a little bit more gradual. There's things to like, there's things to dislike, but those are 100% all my honest opinions. So thank you so much for watching. If you like this kind of content, please consider liking and subscribing. You can also become a member down below. Please, 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 if you're gonna buy these skis or any other skis and I helped you in any way, please use my affiliate links. That is the way that I am able to go out, buy these skis, and give you guys my 100% independent, honest opinion. We also have company Venmo, company Ko-Fi, if you're one of the European viewers where you find value but you can't use an affiliate link, consider using that. But more than anything, as always, just thanks for taking time out of your day to watch my videos. It means a ton to me that you guys watch these, and it's really encouraged me to keep making content even when it's not easy to do so. So thank you, and as always, I'll see you in the next one. See ya.